is what this day is supposed to be about. So I am grateful, thankful for all the people that contribute to the discussion, whether they have questions or enlightening us. So thank you to the panelists. During questions, usually the question of how does your father feel about this? You writing this book, sharing your story, how does he feel about this? Usually come up. This here in Juba, I know the audience are different, the questions are different, and that question never really came up. But I want to address it anyways, because I know some of you are thinking about it, right? My father supported me, okay? He supported me. And usually, wherever I go, he's never there, and I wish sometimes that he's there. Today, my fraternal uncle is here, Gatbel, and I'm really, I'm grateful that Gatbel is here. So, how many of you read the book actually, like from beginning to the end? Okay, and I think it was Dr. Julia mentioned earlier about me fighting with one mana, right? So for those of you that read the book, you guys know I was arrested during that fight. And in there, I was arrested and Gatbel bailed me out of jail. So I talked about that in the book. And that's not the only reason I love Gatbel. I also love Gatbel because when I was going through my arranged marriage, I was 14, it seemed like I was against everybody in the family. I was the black sheep, I was alone. Seriously, in my whole family, I didn't have a voice. Gatbel, he did something that I didn't expect. Gatbel was neither supporting the marriage or supporting me. He was just Gatbel. And at that time, I didn't realize what he was doing. He was supporting me indirectly. But I later learned that he really supported me the whole time, even though he never stood up against my father or against anybody. But the fact that he wasn't part of the other pack that I felt like I was fighting, I truly loved him at that. And you know, in the South Sudanese girls community, we have some things about uncles, right? Because uncles are usually, it's not usually the father that forces you to arrange marriages, it's usually the uncles that force you into arranged marriages. And we know that because it's always the uncles. And I really found myself a good uncle, so he's good. So I want to say thank you for being here today. So I got some questions that I might not be able to answer all, but I do want to address 4 out of these questions are regarding mental health. Yes. And I think that says a lot about what's going on in the room, what's going on in our homes, and what's going on in our society. We are dealing with a lot of untold mental health problems. One of the questions, and they came in form of different ways. Well, before I do that, let me just answer this question real quick. And it came up many times about fighting cultural norms during this lecture. And many of you noticed that you can't fight everything. I wasn't fighting every norms or every culture in South Sudan. Here are the ones I'm fighting. And also it came in a question that says, my question, he wrote a long letter, but it says, my question, it says, what are some of the cultural norms in Africa set up that we need to challenge and fight against? Okay, so that was the question after a very long description. And that's going to answer the same thing that you all have been thinking, that Nigel is fighting cultural norms. I'm not fighting all cultural norms, as some of you indicate. Here are some of the things that I think as a society, and as you read in my book that I went through my own personal experience, as some of you have not read the book, when you read the book, I hope you will not want your daughter, your niece, to go through, or your mother to go through. And these are arranged marriages, or forced marriages. That's what, there's a big theme about that. The other one is the lack of education provided to the girl child in South Sudan. We need to provide our daughters education. other one is gender-based violence. Fighting, when I was in Kampala, I was talking to one of my older sisters who lives here in Uganda, in Juba. She said, when you go to Juba, I was supposed to stay in my uncle's house, but he got us a hotel, so we're in a hotel. And he said, when you go to Juba, if you're gonna be in a neighborhood, you will not leave without hearing a woman being beaten. And I was really shocked. This is Juba. This is South Sudan capital. We're supposed to be civilized here, and we're still beating women at night, to where the whole country hear them cry. Like, why? You know, I understand gender-based violence is not just toward women. Men are also being abused. We need to get rid of all of it. Okay? We need to get rid of all of it. And the last but not least is the closed mindset that we have to mental health. We truly need to be open-minded to talk about our mental issues. And that leads me to what I was saying earlier about questions about mental health. One question was, what was the event that led you to think about suicide? Thank you for asking that. I assume this might be from somebody that maybe read the book halfway, maybe haven't read it yet, but I actually thought about killing myself twice, and it's all in the book. And I will talk about, just briefly mention some of the things that people might be dealing with that led to suicide or ideation, suicide ideation. One other question, it's not a question, but it's a statement saying young men are also seriously suffering from these negative cultural norms. Some of the ones we just named. Notably among these is inheriting your mothers when your father died. So you think your book will, or maybe you thought your book will give hope to these innocent young men who are on the verge of committing suicide as a means of running away from the inhumane act being done upon them. So I've been to 3 events. This is my 4th one, and I met 3 men, young men in their 20s, that are currently being forced into inheriting their father died, inheriting family, a stepmother. And they don't want to do that. Some of them has already isolated from their family. They don't want to talk to them. Some of them are asking questions, what should I do? I'm here to talk about my personal experience, right? So I haven't had that personal experience of being forced into inheriting anybody. But I think that's something as a community or as a society, that's something we need to think about, okay? Because our young men want to be in love. They want to marry the woman of their dreams. They don't want to sleep with their stepmother, you know? So I'm going to put that on all of you because our young men are suffering from this as well, okay? And some of them, like he said here, are in the verge of thinking about committing suicide to avoid that. So that's an issue. This young woman right here asked me about, she asked me about mental health in general. How did I deal with it? What are some of the signs that started me to know that I was dealing with mental health? What resources are out there? Where can we find help? So I'm just going to talk about my own personal experience. My background is in medicine. I have a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. I'm a cardiac nurse. My master is in public health, specializing in epidemiology, and I like public health. So I talked about talking about issues of mental health. It's something I was new to because that wasn't something that I did professionally. But since 2020, when the Ross girls started breaking their silence, and at the time I was in the verge of losing my own life. I was in the office of counselors. I learned what it was like for me before I seek help, what it was like for me to go through it, and what it's like for me right now where I feel completely rescued or found recovery. When I was going through mental health, one thing you guys will have to know when it comes to mental health is that you usually don't know that you are having mental problems, okay? It takes other people around you to tell you that you are dealing with something. And it might come as a form of memory loss. It might come in a form of just being snapped or getting mad at easy things that might not be a problem. It might be you sleeping a lot all the time. maybe you overeating or not eating well. So it comes in a lot of different ways that are hard to recognize by you unless it's brought to your attention, okay? I have a huge chapter about that, and I talked about what it was like for me. So if you know that you are experiencing something that is not normal for you, then maybe it's time to ask other people around you, okay? And if you are a person of a family member that's observing these things, bring it to their attention. It was my best friend, Peter's sister, that told me that I need to go, instead of going to the office, I need to go to emergency room. Because Martha, her name is Martha, my best friend for over 20 years. And you know, that morning I was driving to work and I was crying, and I told her I've been crying all night. And she said, and I'm a registered nurse, I should know these things. And Martha is also a nurse, and she told me, you need to go to emergency room. Okay? So it took her to tell me that I need to seek help. And it also took my supervisor to tell me that I was messing up in my jobs. I had a lot of memory issues that I need to seek help. So I'm telling you that you might not recognize that you are suffering from mental health, but if somebody tells you that you need to seek help, take it seriously. Okay? So seeking or finding help. I don't know where to find help in South Sudan because I'm not sure if there's availability of therapies. But mental health really is about talking. Like Professor Julie said earlier, you can go to your auntie, you can go to your uncle, you can go to your brother, somebody you trust that will not judge you. As long as they give you the space to talk about your issues, usually you find relief. You know, they might not give you the cure, nobody really have a cure for it, but allowing you to talk and giving you the space to verbalize what's going on is a huge relief. Okay, so be that listening ear for your friend, for your family member. Okay. And that would be helpful. So mental health mainly is that we have to accept it as part of life and not a taboo. So if somebody confiding you, please keep it private and not go outside, so that way you're giving them opportunity to come back and share their problem with you. I don't have anything else that I want to add. I just want to say this has been great. It's been way better than I expected. I was very nervous about coming to Juba and actually facing Sudanese, especially the North people. So I am relieved that you guys are very receptive of what's going on, and that you actually acknowledge that some of our cultures, norms that we've been practicing actually need to be challenged and discussed. So I'm grateful for that, and I just want to say thank you very much. The books will be here. We have, there is I will announce it later during the book signing, but